United Nations denounced the ineffectiveness of the humanitarian aid distribution model promoted by the United States and Israel in Gaza. Russia denounces Ukraine non-compliance with the agreements reached at the second round of talks in Istanbul, Turkey. And in Spain, citizens take to the streets in Madrid to protest against the government's growing military spending. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The United Nations denounced the ineffectiveness of the humanitarian aid distribution model promoted by the United States and Israel in the Gaza Strip. The international organization warned that the Western humanitarian model is a means of bringing death to thousands of Gazans' families. They emphasized that the only way to deliver food safely in the Gaza Strip is through the United Nations. In this regard, they recalled the organization's humanitarian work in the occupied territories and urged Tel Aviv to allow them to carry out their work. And on Friday, Volker Turk, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, said he was deeply disturbed by the U.S. government's decision to impose sanctions against the judges of the International Criminal Court. He asked Washington to withdraw these measures against the judges from Benin, Peru, Slovenia and Uganda, who have ruled on the cases of Afghanistan and Palestine. The State Department will prevent these judges from entering U.S. territory and will block any property or other interests they have in the territory. They questioned the arrest warrant issued against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, responsible for the death of more than 50,000 Palestinians, of whom nearly 18,000 are children.
One vote against.
In Saudi Arabia, thousands of pilgrims completed their walk around the Kaaba, Islam's holiest site, during the culmination of the Hajj rituals. The Kaaba is a cube-shaped structure and is the focal point towards which Muslims orient themselves during their daily prayers. On Saturday, pilgrims in Mina performed the ritual stoning of the devil for the second consecutive day in commemoration of the rejection of Satan by Prophet Ibrahim. Over 1.8 million people attended this annual pilgrimage, which takes place under logistical planning designed to manage heat and crowds. At the same time, in India, thousands of Muslims celebrated Eid al-Adha prayers in the country's main squares and mosques in an atmosphere of reverence and security measures. Previously, religious authorities in Kashmir announced the first day of Eid al-Adha, June 7th, following the sighting of the new moon of the month of Dhul al-Hijjah. Residents hope the celebration will bring hope for peace and stability in the region. In this context, Iraqis celebrate the Eid al-Adha prayers throughout various cities and provinces. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani joined the faithful in prayer at the Al-Rasul Mosque in Baghdad. On this occasion, the Iraqi government declared an official holiday from June 6th to June 10th so that citizens may celebrate this religious holiday with their families. In other topics, in Sudan, authorities report more than 1,000 daily cases of a rapidly spreading cholera outbreak in Khartoum, of this war-torn country. Let's see.
The outbreak is centered around the capital Khartoum and has spread as many Sudanese who had fled the country's war return home.
These days, the cholera situation is really bad, especially in Khartoum, which became at the moment the epicenter of the outbreak. So we had a wave of cholera that really increased in a few days, exploded in hundreds of cases, even getting above 1,000 cases a day in Khartoum.
Most cases have been reported in Khartoum and its twin city of Omdurman, but cholera was also detected in the provinces of North Kordofan, Sennar, Gezira, White Nile, and Nile River, health officials said.
obviously regarding the consequences of the conflict on the water system, on the health system, on the hygiene of the people. A lot of people got displaced many times, so they didn't have a shelter or even a house. So they were, living in overcrowded the shelter. So the promiscuity, the lack of water, the lack of hygiene, and the lack of access to healthcare, all that contributed to really increase the cholera and complicate to put the disease under control, the outbreak under control.
Health workers fear the outbreak could spread quickly since many people are packed into displacement centers, making it difficult to isolate those infected.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. I'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Saturday, Russia denounced Ukraine's non-compliance with the agreements reached at the second round of talks in Istanbul, Turkey. The head of the Russian delegation, Vladimir Medinsky, detailed that Kiev postponed indefinitely the reception of corpses and the exchange of prisoners scheduled for this Friday, June 6. According to Medinsky, the Russian side complied with the terms of the talks and attended the humanitarian action to deliver to Ukraine more than 6,000 bodies of its servicemen and exchange prisoners. Although the dates had been announced by both sides, Ukrainian negotiators did not attend the exchange venue. Moscow urges Kiev to comply with the deadlines and agreements. And while this is happening, Russia's air defense forces shot down at least 36 Ukrainian drones in one day over 5 regions in the southwest of the country. The Russian Ministry of Defense specified that the unmanned aircraft were intercepted over the regions of Kursk, Bryansk, Kaluga, Smolensk, and Moscow. Local authorities in each region stated that the drones were successfully intercepted, although in Vorovyov, 2 residents were injured and 1 home was damaged. However, emergency services are monitoring all affected districts to quantify the damage. And the now disgraced Operation Car Wash may be over, but the tactics taught to prosecutors and judges through an illegal partnership with the U.S. Department of Justice are still being used to try to destroy progressive governments. In Brazil, our correspondent Bramir has more.
6 months after taking control of Pesqueira, Pernambuco, the Shukuru indigenous leaders running the local government are complaining that political enemies are applying similar lawfare tactics to those imported from the United States during the criminal persecution of Lula da Silva to sabotage their administration.
Once again, the criminalization of the Shukuru people is intensifying. This becomes especially clear when comparing similar legal actions here in Pernambuco and across the country. The patterns in how these cases unfold and how they're portrayed in the media reveal striking parallels. The process seems standardized, echoing tactics seen in larger-scale operations. It reminds me of strategies used in Operation Car Wash under Sergio Moro.
Chief Marcos was first elected mayor in 2020, but enemies resuscitated a 20-year-old conviction for property damage during a protest to bar him from office. Months later, the courts admitted judicial error and annulled his conviction, enabling him to run in 2024. But since taking office, conservative enemies have filed arbitrary charges for accounting errors that occurred during the previous government, forcing him to temporarily step down for the month of April during a frivolous investigation.
Stepping down for a month was legally unusual. We believe it was unnecessary, but we respected that decision, and we have complied with all the court orders. I believe that if these procedures are carried out normally, we'll not only be able to run this government according to the goals set by Mayor Marcos and his team in their plan for the city, but he will prove his innocence once again.
This isn't the only instance in which U.S. DOJ tactics taught to the Operation Car Wash Task Force have been used to damage political enemies at the local level. In 2019, 23 frivolous corruption charges were filed against former Paraíba governor Ricardo Coutinho. It took him 3 years to prove his innocence, but that damage to his image led to his losing an election. Mayor Marcos, however, remains optimistic.
In the heart of the 21st century, we are achieving many victories. We have taken on a great level of protagonism in this state and this nation. Unfortunately, the state and some people still don't understand the importance of this.
With Mayor Marcos back in office for over a month, the Shukuru government has overcome its first hurdle, but the 500-year fight for autonomy continues. Brian Mir, teleSUR, Pesqueira, Pernambuco.
Also in Brazil, experts say in less than a year there's been a 92% increase in deforestation. The National Space Research Institute reported that from August 2024 to May 2025, the increase in deforestation in the Amazon has meant the destruction of anywhere between 500 to 960 kilometers of forest. They say there are three main reasons for deforestation: mining, massive logging, and wildfires. Brazil's Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry has repeatedly emphasized the importance of preserving the Amazon rainforest, not just for Brazil but also for the survival of humanity, for its key role in the hydrological and carbon cycles. In sports, Venezuela hosted Bolivia at the Monumental de Maturin Stadium for the 15th round of the South American qualifier, where both teams needed a victory. However, the Vino Tinto defended the 14 de Maturin, beating Los Altiplanos 2-0. The Vino Tinto started the match a little sluggishly, but picked up the pace after Bolivia scored an own goal in the 5th minute when centre-back Héctor Cuellar returned the ball to his goalkeeper and it slipped through Vizcarra's legs. Later, Venezuela continued to try, and in the 30th minute of the match, Ferraresi close to Salomon Rondon, who scored to make 2-0 at halftime. With this victory for Vino Tinto, Venezuela now has 18 points and Bolivia remains with 14 points. Both teams still have a chance to qualify and their fate is in their own hands. Venezuela remains unbeaten at home. In another match of the day, Colombia hosted Peru in Barranquilla and for a 0-0 tie. The Roberto Meléndez Metropolitan Stadium hosted the match where both teams were held to a draw, despite the fact that the locals had 71% of ball possession and shot 15 times compared to only 4 shots by the Peruvians. With the draw, both teams added 1 point. Colombia is 6th in the standing with 21 points, while Peru is in the next to last position in 9th place with 11 points. And the World Cup qualifiers are in the final stretch. So far, Argentina has already secured a spot in the 2026 World Cup and will defend its title won in Qatar in 2022. Round 15 of the South American qualifying rounds ended with Ecuador and Paraguay in 2nd and 3rd place on the list, tied with 24 points, leaving both teams one step away from qualification. Brazil is in 4th place, followed by Uruguay and Colombia, while Venezuela, after its victory of Bolivia, is in 7th place and in the playoff zone. Now for our second and final break coming up, before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. The final break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Spain, demonstrations were held on Saturday in front of the Congress of Deputies in Madrid to protest against the militaristic policies and growing military spending of the government of Pedro Sánchez in the run-up to the upcoming summit of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Protesters gathered in Plaza Puerta del Sol to denounce the increase in military spending, cuts in social investment, and to criticize the hypocrisy of the West in the face of Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Participants also demanded that the government invest money in schools and the health system and stop encouraging the Zionist plans of Benjamin Netanyahu. Protesters pointed out that Spain is not a country of wars, but a peaceful nation, and should not continue to favor the interests of President Donald Trump and the Israeli regime by purchasing weapons. And in China, several regions implement strategies to boost consumption during the summer. Haizu National Wetland Park in southern China hosts sports activities such as canoeing and dragon boat paddling to boost economic growth. In addition, the Hui Autonomous Region of Ningxia is experiencing a high season with desert surfing and stargazing-themed hotel accommodation. At the same time, Jiangsu Province built a special pet park that attracted pet owners and animal lovers, sparking a potential for consumption. In Cuba, percussionist Changuito, considered an outstanding Cuban musician, passed away. The Cuban Music Institute praised the legacy of José Luis Quintana Fuentes, also known as Changuito, as an example of creativity, curiosity, and dedication to art, and to his long and successful career, in which he collaborated with several music groups. Members of the band orchestra expressed their deep sorrow for the passing of the artist, whom they regard as a genius of Cuban percussion, whose talent and secret hand changed the history of Cuban music. Quintana was born in 1948 in Casablanca in Havana. From a very early age, he showed his talent for percussion. Besides having had a successful artistic career, he also worked as a music teacher. And Honduras finalizes details for the 2025 Chorro and Wine Festival in La Esperanza. The Honduran National Chamber of Tourism announced that it is ready for the 19th edition of this national festival, one of the most notable gastronomic and cultural events in the western part of the country. The organizing committee highlighted that this celebration will feature various artistic performances, ecotourism, tours, craft displays, and exhibitions with the aim of boosting the region's economy. The Chorro and Wine Festival in La Esperanza will take place from June 27th to the 29th and will welcome Hondurans and foreign tourists who wish to enjoy the 2025 experience. And in the city of Nice, France, thousands gathered for a drone show ahead of the UN Ocean Conference from June 9th to the 13th. In the show, more than 2,000 drones lighted up the sky with marine creatures in a 15-minute display that ended with fireworks. The coastal city of Nice will host the third United Nations Ocean Conference, a high-level summit co-chaired by France and Costa Rica. Its mission, to confront a deepening ocean emergency that scientists warn is nearing a point of no return. World leaders hope the conference will inspire unprecedented ambition, innovative partnerships, and maybe a healthy competition in the race of protecting the oceans. With this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. With Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.